Hey everybody, what is going on? It is Aaron here, and we have a wonderful guest today. We have Juliana living um, out here in the Austin area. How's it going, Juliana?
It's going well. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Your background is much better than mine. Where are you?
So we are out in Red Rock, Texas. A lot of people are not familiar. It is in Bastrop County, between Lockhart and Bastrop. We are actually outside because we don't do internet out here. So we're just trying to accommodate.
Yeah, no, I thought it was kind of funny. It's not every day that you hear from someone who is an accomplished flipper and investor, and they don't live in the city.
Yeah, I mean, Austin's beautiful, don't get me wrong, but it's a very different life. It's so busy. And I have a lot of investor flipper friends, and I mean, they live in the middle of everything so like they can get to it or convenience for them. But I try to stay away. I like the quietness, I like the openness. It's pretty nice. Bastrop County is really, really nice.
Awesome. So what took you out there? I mean, I know that you do quite a few deals, but what kind of stuck out compared to any other part of the area?
Hmm. Well, I'm from Houston originally, and when I first moved out to the Austin Bastrop area, this is where I landed. It was a bit different back then. I was driving into Austin every day because I was going to school, and after a while, I did get tired of the drives. I moved out to Austin. I lived by the South Park Meadows area, off of Slaughter, and
Yeah.
it was way too busy. I mean, traffic, and it was 5 years ago, so it wasn't even as crazy as it is now. But we got an opportunity for a flip out in Bastrop, and driving out every day to it for about 2 months, we came across this property. I fell in love, and I was like, I'm moving to the country, and I've never looked back. I really think the country life suits me, even though Austin's really pretty, but I couldn't do it every day.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. There is something about getting fresh air. It almost does something for your mind.
Mhm.
That's
It's
awesome.
good to unwind. I mean, sometimes, I mean, any investor will tell you it gets a little hectic. I come home, I turn everything off. Sometimes you can't even reach me because of the signal, and so it works. It works.
That's awesome. So I know you mentioned how you're originally from Houston, and then you eventually came to school here in Austin to live here. When you were younger growing up, did you have anyone to kind of get you into real estate, or what was your journey like from there?
Actually, no. I wanted. I'm an Aggie, and I studied something completely different. I was a math major, and I wanted to see what to kind of get a taste of it. And after finishing that, it just wasn't. I don't know. It just wasn't what I thought it would be. And so I stumbled onto real estate after that. I bought my first mobile home, and I flipped that because all honesty, it was all I could afford back then. And so I bought this really, really distraught mobile home for $6,000. Um, Flipped that after living in it for about a year, and I got hooked. I've never let go of mobile homes since then. And this was back in 2016. So that's kind of how I got into it. It was by total mistake. Had I didn't have no idea what I was getting myself into.
That's awesome. So
Mm-hmm.
how did if you wouldn't mind, kind of explaining a bit, how did you find this mobile home? Was it someone that referred you to it, or, how did you even stumble into this?
So yeah, the first one was a referral. I had a friend who worked in that. He flipped mobile homes for other people. So he was a contractor. He got hired to do all the work. This one was actually presented to him, and he knew that I was looking for somewhere to live. That I was moving from Houston, and I needed somewhere to live. So he presented to me like, "Hey, it's not all that $6,000 for X amount of money. you can make it livable, it's a good deal, right? I didn't know anything. I thought he was trying to sell me a essentially a garbage mobile home, but it was really good. It turned out really good. I mean, I thank him till this day. One that put me on what it takes to flip it, how to flip it, how to maximize on your return for mobile homes, and so that was a good thing. Very unexpected, but I definitely thank him till this day.
That's awesome. Personally, I'm not very familiar with mobile homes. I know obviously if you're going to rehab a house, you need to tear out a wall, you need to pull a permit, things like that. But what do you think makes investing in mobile homes different to flipping houses?
So the thing with mobile homes is that most of the time you don't, unless you live like in a park in a neighborhood, then they do have certain rules and permissions that you need from them. But as far as the county to remodel, you don't need permits. Mobile homes essentially are not even real property or considered real property. They're considered personal property most of the times if it's not tied to the land. And so it's a lot easier when it comes to that. It's also a lot easier to knock down walls and redo plumbing, redo the floor plan, because essentially you can cut anything out, you can gut it out, and you're not breaking uh, concrete. You're not, it's so much inexpensive to do it. Now, I know a lot of people that would say it's not inexpensive. But again, if you are the one actually doing the work, it is completely different numbers. And that's where I think where I've had most of the return on the mobile homes, because I do most of the work myself, and so I can remove a whole wall. We can set up backsplashes. We can put in new cabinets, and it's not going to cost me to hire somebody else out. So it's definitely a lot easier, a lot cheaper, and essentially I get to really customize a whole mobile home a lot cheaper than I would a home.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes a lot of sense. So from there, have you kind of been sticking more to mobile homes, or what are you currently doing right now?
We do a little bit of everything. My first project, of course, like I said, was a mobile home. We went from there, and I started a build. Well, the build I started before the mobile home, but it wasn't a flip. I started building a house for myself. Um, that took me about 3 years to complete. I GC'd the whole project, start to finish. Had no idea what I was doing. I honestly came across the best of subs, and I'm so glad and blessed that it was definitely a learning experience, but I didn't have a bad one. And so I've done homes, I've done mobile homes, we've done land out in Georgetown. We sold a few acres, just acres by themselves. Out in Red Rock, which is the property I'm at now, that's set to be sold in December. We actually took 8.5 raw acres and turned it into two parcels. We put in all the utilities, septics. We set up a total of 4 mobile homes on the land. And so I've done it all, from raw land development to just mobile homes on their own, fix them up and sell them off so that they can be moved, to traditional homes. So it's all it all has its way of, I don't know, I guess every deal is unique. There was one where we literally just cleaned up the land and it was ready to go. But I mean, each one has its own perks.
Yeah, absolutely. You brought up a really interesting point about, getting into that first new construction project. You had a good team of GCs, ended up being a great learning experience for you. But, could you kind of walk through, were you working maybe an 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 during the day? Or, were you fully devoted all of your time to this project for those 3 years, or how did it play out?
Okay, so I think it was the longest, most hardest 3 years of my life. I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything. So when I moved out here in Austin, 2015, the first time, I bought land, right? And I thought, I could get a construction loan and we'll finish this house 6 months tops, right? That didn't happen. I didn't get approved for a loan or any type of financing, and so I was kind of stuck with starting a project on my own. Back then, I had just going to school, had just graduated, was gonna start working as paralegal. Did not work out the way I thought. And so my family has owned, or I should say my grandma has built a business for the last 20 years. She's had furniture stores. And so my options were either stick to being a paralegal or open up a furniture store with the help of my grandmother. And so I opened up a furniture store, and it was 12-hour days. It was running a whole new business, being in debt for that. And it was juggling that and taking every dollar that was made as profit to pour it into the house. So that's why it took me 3 years. It was paid cash, and all those proceeds came from everything that was done at the furniture store. So I could not work because I couldn't continue the projects. I couldn't. That's all the income I had. And so it was really more of the house kept moving along as steady as the furniture store would bring in money. And so it was a little hard. And like I said, it took us 3 years. It was definitely a lot of sacrifices. But I mean, it was well worth it at the end. I think it definitely, makes you appreciate it, to where you worked really hard at the furniture store, and it wasn't necessarily to take home a paycheck, but to build a home. So it was a really nice experience.
Awesome. Yeah, I know a lot of people have different questions. Maybe they've been rehabbers, they've been flippers in the past. They're wanting to start out with new construction homes, but they're kind of like, oh, well, they have other obligations. They're working throughout the day, that 8 to 5, 9 to 5. Just wanted to see if it was reasonable for them to maybe be able to build a house as well.
So how I would honestly go about it, whenever I did that, like I said, I won't sugarcoat it, but it was really stressful. It was really stressful because sometimes, I was single. I had my son, of course. He was 8 years old at the time. And so I don't think I had as many responsibilities as a head of a household that provides for bigger families would. And so I was able to sacrifice here and there, to kind of accommodate the house. A lot of people don't have the freedom to do that, and I understand that. But I would definitely say that there is a lot of programs. There's a lot of, now hard money lenders, there's private lenders, there's all kinds of things. And so I would definitely encourage people who are trying to get into this. If it's not a total new build, using these resources could be a very good way to start on flipping. Because of flipping, of course, there's a lot less things to do. You don't have to worry about permits alone right now, because of the whole COVID thing. They're taking longer. City of Austin, you're looking up to 6 months for permits, sometimes even longer. And so if you really just want to start off with something, I would totally encourage people, definitely go for it. Real estate it's a way to make money. There's tons of ways to make money in real estate, but I would definitely use all the resources available, like hard money lenders, JVs with other investors. Or sometimes people have the money but don't want to really get involved. Lend out your money, make a return on that. Doing it the legal and with the right paperwork, it can be very beneficial.
Okay, absolutely. You mentioned there, JVing with other people. How do if you could explain maybe how you did your first JV deal, or how do you connect with people to be able to do deals?
So, there's a couple groups. I'll plug one in here, Investor Underground. There's a lot of posts that you have to wade through, but there is really good investors as well as lawyers in that group that are always looking to either invest money, or they need money lent to them. And so that would be one way to start. Look, Facebook's groups, there's tons of groups, there's different, all kinds of groups, very informational. Two, also, most people team up with people that are they're friends with. Of course, make contracts and have everything in writing for the benefit of everybody. But I mean, for example, I know a girl that I went to high school with. She reached out to me and she was like, "Hey, I have X amount of money that I'm trying to invest. I see what you're doing. What can we partner up and do together?" And so with her, it was a 6-month mobile home flip. She made 10% of her money as profit, and so it was something that was pretty good. Like I said, sometimes you don't have to go to a complete stranger, but make sure that both parties are protected, so that there's no fallouts or no misunderstandings with that. There's also JVs with um, hard money lenders. A lot of hard money lenders, depending, even especially if they're private small lenders, depending on the deal, they will either front you the money, or go in half to where it's not a fee that you're paying, but it's really an investment together. And so it just depends on what you're looking for, the amount of capital that you either bring or you need, that will kind of direct you where you need to go with that.
Yeah, fair enough. So do you think that's still feasible even if someone doesn't, let's say maybe it's their first time, they don't have much cash to put up front. What would be reasonable for someone like that?
Um, so how I see it, especially, whenever I try to either negotiate a deal or jump into one, either you bring something to the table. So whether you bring the property or you bring the capital, or you bring, sometimes people bring credit. If your credit is good, you can team up with somebody because they can put everything on your credit. You sign a JV, you're protected. Once the house sells, it gets paid off. But it's something that a lot of people don't have. Credit is important. That's a good point to make right now. Credit is important. Take care of your credit, especially if you want to get into this, because I mean, of course, cash is king, but it's so nice to hold on to your cash and to your assets so that you can do more at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Credit, cash is king, but credit is crucial too.
Yeah. Def-
Absolutely. So what are you looking forward to in the future? Do you have any deals you're really looking to do in the near future?
Yeah, well, right now I'm looking for any land deals. I've been on the lookout for a while now. Of course, with everything kind of growing out into the suburbs, into the Bastrop County, Georgetown area, there's really not a lot of unrestricted land uh, that is available on the market. It's just a shortage of everything, even single family homes. There's a demand for it. So we're definitely looking to get into that. But as far as deals that we have going on, like I said, we have this closing come September. We just had a closing today, that we acquired 8 acres, and we have a couple meetings tomorrow to go look out in Dripping Springs, which should be a good area. With Tesla moving into Del Valley, it's definitely gonna raise the prices. People are gonna want to move out to the country, and so while a lot of people jump in the city because of course it's going to make money, I like buying in the outskirts because I know somebody's running from the high taxes.
Absolutely. Now you brought up a very interesting point as well. As I mean, kind of off that, you mentioned how Tesla's moving into Del Valley, but what do you make of the future of Austin? Where do you see Austin growing?
Austin, like I said, I first came out here 2015, and I came out to Cedar Creek area, Dale area. And so back then there was barely any traffic up until you hit maybe 183 off of 812. There was no stores. The nearest I guess, meat market. It wasn't even a huge store. It was 30 minutes away. But now everything's changing. There is a lot of subdivisions that are popping up, especially in the Del Valley area. And so everything's growing. Austin's already really expensive, in my opinion. Um, and, with the whole gentrification, I know a lot of people are getting, bought out. They are going out of the city area, but I honestly feel like it's a good thing. I feel like it will be the next Silicon Valley area because it's just growing. It's crazy. I mean, aside from Tesla, before Tesla even mentioned us, it was growing. There was so I'm with the broker, the agency Texas, and I was there. um I've been there for a year and a half now, and a lot of our clients came from California. A lot. Like a lot of investors came from California, and the California prices, you sell a house there, you can pretty much buy a substantial house here. And so it was crazy then, a year and a half ago. Imagine now. I had a meeting with a KB home associate, and I had that last week, and she had said that after Tesla announced that, like, their phones were ringing off the hook. That neighborhood happens to be in Del Valley, so of course you would expect that. But it's crazy. It's just everywhere. It's pretty much sold out. I think build outs are 6 months, and so there's no inventory already, and there hasn't been even before COVID hit. So you can only expect it to get a little bit crazier.
Absolutely. So it's kind of difficult to see, what is that going to mean that we're going to have, a spike in land prices, being that we don't have the inventory, or what do you kind of make the next few years?
So I don't know if you've seen a lot of the reports. I know Abor puts out a few reports, and I've seen them even before this Tesla thing, that there had been an increase in prices regardless, because one, there's not enough inventory on the market, uh, and I think it was like a 9% increase from last year. I mean, during COVID, like, which is crazy. Everybody thought that the prices would slow down, or that there would be, houses sitting on the market for a long time, but it's the exact opposite. And so I do think that with Tesla, um, you know, finally officially making it that they're moving out here, you will see an increase. I know like I said, I talked to that KB associate, and she said that they were looking at about a 13% increase, and they had no inventory. And so, I mean, that alone, if new construction goes up, everything around it goes up. Because if you can compete with new construction, it'll get sold any day before it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. No, it's really interesting to see kind of the way people are moving. Before we had people wanting to get into the city centers. Now people are wanting to get out. Do you, and now that we're having this work from home that a lot of people are doing, do you think that a lot of people, will move out to rural areas, being that they can work from home anyways?
I think there will definitely be an increase into, the further areas. One, because of course you can work from home, so you no longer have to consider an hour commute to or from. I had a friend who actually lived out in Red Rock, so if anybody wants to map it out, and she worked downtown Austin in a federal building, and so she was driving what, an hour and a half in the mornings, and that kind of was like, oh, I'm gonna look for another job, or she considered it a few times. Now that she's working from home, she has no problem, like, at all. And so I do think, um, with that, you definitely open up the door to, people moving out to Dripping Springs, people moving, even if you do work for Austin, the city of Austin, people moving out. What was another area that was pretty good that I know saw a high traffic area? Elgin, it's a little farther out on the map, but with people no longer having to commute, it definitely makes it very attractive, especially with the tax rates as well as the prices. And I mean, for the same price that you can get a new construction home, you can get acres out in the country. And so it's definitely a good point to have. I think it's a plus.
Fun fact, Elgin was one vote away from being the capital of the state of Texas.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that. I
Yeah.
did not. Elgin's really, really nice. I've done the drive sometimes from Bastrop to Elgin up 95, and it's gorgeous. I love it.
It is pretty.
Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And what other is there anything that you haven't said already that you'd like to say or really just hit home?
Let's see. Well, I mean, like you said, if people are, because I'm people, I guess, inbox me all the time, like, what do you recommend or how do I get started? And a lot of things that I see on the internet, especially aimed at new investors, is that you don't need a lot to start. You don't need a lot of money. You don't need experience. You don't need a lot. Like, as long as you, do your homework, of course. Don't go and buy the first property that you come across. But if you do your homework and you stick to certain numbers, you compare numbers with contractors. There's all kinds of contractors. Not all of them are good, but not all of them are bad. And so you do have to kind of do your homework before you jump in. But I promise it is worth it. I have friends that have been doing this a long time. Like I mentioned, Doreen, she is amazing. I honestly aspire to be as good as her. She, does a lot of wholesaling. She's brought me a few projects. We've worked together in the past before, and I see how she is and what she puts in it, and she's killing it. She's so good. But then I know people that do it passively. They just like, oh, it's just one deal a year, two, maybe three, but it works for them. And so that's what I want people kind of to get. You don't have to jump fully in. You don't have to drastically invest yourself in. There is a level for everybody. Like I said, there's tons of ways. You can do wholesale. Wholesale's pretty easy, no money up front. You can do flips. You can do private lending. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier. My biggest thing, my business centers around is owner financing. And so I feel like, I could flip houses all day. I'm going to compete with every other flipper that has a house on the market. But because I offer owner financing and I work with each client to meet either down payment plan or an overall payment plan, I work with, the amount that's due at closing and the amount each month. My client base is so much bigger than any of these flippers are going to put on the market and don't offer that. And so there's really something for everybody. It's limitless. You, like I said, you can really make your own way within real estate.
Yeah, absolutely. You brought up a terrific, really interesting point about owner financing. It kind of seems like that's only talked about so much. Why do you think most flippers don't offer that, whereas you're one of the few that does?
I think it has a lot to do with, and I'm in no way knocking at other investors. Everybody does their thing and they're pretty good at it. I know a lot of investors that will rather get cashed out even if their profit is a little bit less, because that profit they put it onto the next project, and so it will just rack up profit. With me, how I like to look at it. When I started, I was like, okay, so I get so much down payment that will sustain me through my next deals. But I also want to make sure that I'm not just focusing now and that I'm building something for the future. And so with the note, I mean, there's different notes, different terms. Most people, you can make a note for 3 months. You can make it for the, traditional 30-year amortization. And so the thing with me, and why I think it's a little different for me, is that I rather put it to the side. I rather not get cashed out now, let it build interest. You can always cash out. You can sell the notes later. There's a whole different market for that. But I do feel like other investors, and what keeps them from offering these finances, is that they do use private money and hard money lenders that they have to repay within a certain time. They can't do that with unless it's money out of their pocket, if they didn't either collect enough down payment, or if they just, I don't know. Most of the time, from what I've heard other investors, and it's different for everybody. If you make 20 to 30% profit, it's a good deal. But on $100,000 house versus a $500,000 house, it's way different. And so I feel like, like I said, they have to pay off the underlying note, or the lender, or the lender that put up the repairs, and so they're not able to offer that. And with me, thankfully, I have 7 notes. All of them were free and clear when I offered them owner financing, and it comes from rolling the down payment from the first one into buying the second one, and then rolling that down payment to purchase the one following that. So it's not like I'm made out of money, but I would put all the down payment into securing another property.
Okay, fair enough. So it almost seems like you're more playing the long game, with the donor financing as opposed to just getting cashed out every time.
Yes. And that's a discussion that I had with another investor, that like he said, well, somebody that's just starting might want to get cashed out. And yes, of course you want to get cashed out on your first few deals, because then you have capital to keep working, to not have to pull out a hard money loan. But with me, it was definitely a longer played game. I had a goal of reaching X amount of notes by the time I'm 30. And we are on track with that. And so I feel like, for me personally, and what works for me, it's the long run game.
Absolutely. So the long run game, I know you mentioned, you want to get to a certain number by the time you're 30. What are there any other sort of projects you're looking to do? I guess scaling up, or what's the big end goal?
Okay, so I'll be honest. Goal was, my first note was created February 2018. Yes. And so I told myself I want 5 by the time I'm 30, right? And I told myself that's what I would reach. With today's closing, we're at 7 already. And so I think about it often, especially when this land goes in December. What do I want to accomplish next? And I really had fun with that land development. And so this is why I'm looking for more land and everything, because I feel it's a cool aspect. Like, I had never done it. I got contractors for the septics. I got contractors to lay in a meter rack. And so I had tons of fun. And so I want to scale up to do a larger development. I'm looking to do maybe a little bit more than 10 acres. And so that's really what I'm focused on. And that's really where the proceeds from this sale will go. So if anybody has land, hit me up. I'm definitely looking for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, it's kind of interesting to see the way your goals have progressed. It kind of seemed like in the very beginning, when you first got that deal for 6,000, you were just kind of taking a shot in the dark and going for it. But it seems like your goals got more developed and better over time. Is there any way that you set your goals?
There isn't. Like I said, I honestly got thrown into this, and it just got thrown on my lap. And I feel like every time that I've okay, so I bought that mobile home, flipped it, lived in it for a year. I sold it. When I sold that, I started my house, and I was living in another mobile home. And then I sold my business, the furniture store. I sold it. That led to me having enough funds to finish the house. Then when I sold the house, another property came up. And so I feel like, while I've always been focused on trying to maximize my, profits from each sale that came along the way, it was always something else lined up. And it's sometimes, you're looking for it. You want to hop on the next big, I don't know, land project or mobile home project. But for me, it really was out of the blue. The first one was 5 acres that had been on the market for 2 days. my realtor didn't even catch it at the time. I wasn't a realtor. And I had to ask her, hey, can you call this one? The second time, it was a wholesale deal that I happened to find online. And then the one after that, I put out bandit signs. Bandit signs worked, by the way. The guy gave me a call a day after we had set them up. I showed up, asked him how much he wanted. It was within my budget. We went ahead and closed on that. And so deals are out there. Yes, sometimes you have to look, but you also have to always be ready to jump when there is an opportunity. Even if you at the moment don't have all the funds yet, get it under contract. If you know you're not gonna be able to close on it, try to wholesale it. There's tons to do with simply making a contract. Whether it's wholesaling it, closing it, securing funding within a short period, most hard money lenders use 7 days close. And so there's always a way, but you have to be willing to kind of, jump at it. Especially with deals like that. All investors are trying to jump on them now. So.
Yeah. No, you made an interesting point there as well. You kind of talked about if you don't have very much right now, just kind of jump into it and get it under contract. Could you kind of run through that, what it would mean to get something under contract or wholesaling,
Yeah. So when you do wholesale, it basically means, let's just say, you want to sell me your house. I say, okay, I want to buy your house for X amount of dollars. Let's get it under contract, right? You fill out a contract. Most of the time we use them. We use the ones that are done by TREC. And so that form is signed by both parties. Basically says, I, seller, want to sell you my house. You want to buy it for X amount of money. The seller cannot back out. You as the buyer have various options. Let's just say you try to secure funding, you're not approved. You try to private money lenders, you're not approved. You don't necessarily have to walk away from the deal. What you can do is sell it to another investor, especially if you know it's a good deal. So let's just say I pick up a house for $100,000 that's worth $200,000 after remodel. I go to X investor and I'm like, hey, I have this contract. I will sell you my rights for $10,000. They run their comps, do their due diligence. Okay, cool. We have a deal. You take that contract, you assign it to them. There's paperwork that's done there. Basically, what happens is the investor that bought it from you goes to closing, brings the total amount of money. Seller gets paid out what you contracted for. You get the difference. So if they bought it from you for $110,000, they pay the seller $100,000. You get the $10,000 at closing. And so, those are really good deals. There's people that do wholesaling for a living. It's a pretty tough market. There's people that will hunt these deals down. They do it from the foreclosure list. They do it vacant homes, driving for dollars. I think it's like an app or something. So there's a lot of different ways, but like I said, you don't have to get discouraged and walk away completely from the deal. You can still make something.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that was a wonderful run through, because I know that those words kind of get thrown around, wholesaling, getting something under contract, but that was a great explanation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't do a lot of it. Doreen does. She's amazing. I can send you the information. Maybe you can link it at the bottom. She's amazing. She does a lot of work out in Georgetown. But anything in Bastrop County, sometimes you buy good deals from wholesalers. And so it's definitely something that you don't want to overlook or rule out.
Okay. Yeah, I know you mentioned Doreen a little bit earlier. You kind of mentioned how you wanted to get to that level, doing those sort of deals. What is it about Doreen's deals or the way that she does things that you particularly like?
I honestly like how, how to say, dedicated she is to finding all these deals. I honestly think she's out of Pflugerville. I can't remember. She's definitely North Austin. And the thing is, she brought me a really good deal. She was like, hey, I have the seller that wants to sell land. Do you have a buyer? And so she secures a lot of deals. She's a really go-getter. I look up to her, or I like how she works because she's so dedicated. And so I know if I applied myself, maybe I could be half as good as her. She's amazing. But I do feel like her work ethic is wonderful. Um, I know a lot of investors that work with her that she partners up with. I also that will praise her all day. She's just an overall amazing person. And like I said, her work ethic is something that I should apply to myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, she's really good. Like I said, I'll send you her information. She's really good. Like I said, she sent me a couple deals. She will pass on your information. She name drops all the time when it comes to mobile homes, and so I do appreciate her and everything that she's brought on my plate.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, are there any other, I know you kind of ran through a lot of different tips. Are there any other kind of pitfalls that you think that kind of going back to mobile homes, anyone that, is kind of wanting to get into mobile homes, any kind of pitfalls or mistakes that are common?
So when I first started, like I said, I bought my first one for 6,000. Um, I honestly messed up and bought another one for 10,000. I didn't know what I should be paying for them, but you should never pay anything close to that, unless it's like a brand new one that you don't have to put any work into. Of course, jump in it. Um, but as far as distraught ones that you need a complete haul off, I will honestly say that it's the more you pay up front, the less profit you're gonna get from it. And so just consider that when it comes to a mobile home. I mean, I've seen mobile homes go for 100K brand new. But with the remodel, decent size with putting just basic colors, nothing crazy, you should be able to get anywhere from 30 to 40,000, or that's what we shoot at. And so do not jump at anything overpriced, especially because you would still have to pay for a move most of the time. Moving them is expensive in itself. So I would definitely secure a mover that you can work with and that will break a discount if you do multiple moves. There was a point where I was having maybe 4 or 5 moves a month. And so I definitely had to sit down with the mover and kind of like, hey, I need a price break somewhere, right? And most of them, they're open to it. If you think it's a good deal regardless, then hey, even better. But the moving costs, try to negotiate those. Purchase price, try to negotiate those, especially if you know it's going to need new roof, new floors, all of that good stuff. Do not overpay for those. And two, I know a lot of people that try to sell it with land. You don't have to. Like I said, they're not considered real property. You don't have to register with the county. You can literally, and especially on the marketplace, I see a lot of them go, where you just offer them mobile home. Somebody will come and haul it off to their land or their rental lot or wherever it is that they're putting it. And so I wouldn't even waste energy, whether it's time or money, registering it, because it will get hauled off. And like I said, it's considered personal property, and so it's just a whole different thing when it comes to taxes and county and all of that. But like I said, there's no losing with mobile homes. A lot of people don't mess with them. They feel like it's not enough profit margin, or it's really like the lower scale flips, and in some ways it is. But I'm not spending $50,000 on a remodel, and so that's the perks about it. It's not for everybody, but it's definitely a good market in the Austin area. Where I came from in Houston, mobile homes are not as big as a market, or sometimes they're looked down on, or it's definitely a different area of Houston that you find mobile homes at. And here, they're everywhere. Kyle, Buda area, there's tons of them. That's 90% of my furniture store clients lived in a mobile home. Um, you know, Red Rock, Bastrop County, Dale area, Cedar Creek, there's tons of mobile homes. And so I feel like it definitely gives it a different feeling and a different outlook from clients, because, I mean, everybody's looking for a mobile home on land. So
There you go. Absolutely.
mm,
Okay. Well, is there anything else you'd like to mention that maybe you haven't, or?
I don't know. I think we went through it. Owner financing, always a good idea. If you own your home free and clear, don't cash out. Save it for a rainy day. You make a lot more money charging interest. That's like the best part of it, because traditionally you charge anywhere from 7 to 10%, right? You know, think of how much you're gonna make over time, especially on a 30-year note. Some people think like, oh, well, I'd rather have cash today. But what are you really gonna do with your cash? Let it work for you, and it makes more money in the long run. That's my biggest, I guess. That's why I like offering owner finance. The interest, the loan will make you a little bit more in the long run.
Absolutely. Awesome. So, maybe someone's seen this, they really like what you're talking about. Maybe they want to JV on a deal with you. Maybe they want to, just see what, if they can help you out in any way. Where can people find you?
Well, Facebook, definitely. Or I mean, we can drop my phone number or my email. I'm available all the time. Like I said, we've done deals as north as Georgetown. We've done deals as south as Lockhart. I mean, I'm everywhere. My social media has all my phone numbers. If y'all want to reach out, if y'all want to JV, hey, if you have questions and I can lead you the right path, I'm here. Like I said, a lot of my friends are beginners. I honestly think I'm still beginning in this, and I'm still trying to get uh, a feel for the rest of the market. And so, I mean, I'm definitely here to help. My Facebook is Juliana Alejandra. And I mean, I don't know if you can link it to the bottom and just put my information,
Yeah.
and feel free to reach out. I'm here for y'all.
Awesome. Cool. I will link that in the description with, all of your info. That was terrific. You really ran the gamut talking about new construction, mobile homes, land, getting started. So that was a great chat.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on here. Super honored. Like I said, looking forward to working with y'all, or you feel free to reach out. Uh, Always available.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Juliana.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.